And it's my incredible pleasure, and I'm deeply intrinsically motivated, to introduce you to Jesse Schell. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's exciting to be here. It's especially exciting to be here to realize that we're actually having the conference literally in the shadow of Zynga. I thought that was, when I walked up this morning, I was fascinated by that. So yeah, as Gabe was saying, the way I started getting involved with the notion of gamification was that talk I gave at DICE a few years ago, where I kind of made the observation that the things that were surprising us in the game industry, all of these were surprise successes. They were surprising because they were reaching out into the real world. And game designers don't normally live in the real world. We're focused on fantasy worlds. And suddenly we were hit by this slew of successes that are about connecting with real people and real motion and real exercise and real physical objects. And at the same time, I couldn't help but notice that more and more of these sort of loyalty programs were becoming more and more game-like, but they weren't being designed by game designers. And so I painted this picture that was about what happens when real life and games start to come together. And a lot of that is, and we're seeing it now, and I think we're going to continue to see it, is being motivated by the fact that sensing technologies are getting smaller, they're getting more portable, they are getting cheaper and cheaper, they're really moving into the disposable realm. And I painted a bit of a picture of what will the world be like when we have every single object that we have has these sorts of sensing technologies. And people were fascinated by this talk. I didn't expect this, but the thing ended up having over 1 million views for a 30-minute lecture online. And I was really sort of taken aback by this because I'm a college professor, which means I'm not really used to people listening to what I say. And so people started assuming I knew something about this and that I would be something of an expert on it, which I was not. So I figured I'd better start learning some things. So today I'm going to tell you about some of the things I've learned over the last 3 years as I've tried to sort some of this out. One of the places that people love to begin when they say, yes, I get it, games, yes, games can make what I'm doing better. I want to gamify what I'm doing. Badges, right? The Boy Scouts have badges. That's great. Let's just do it. That's going to be what I'm going to do. I'm done. And that's not really the case. It's sort of like if I'd said, hey, have you heard about this thing out there? It's called chocolate, and it's really good. And people say, wow, I love it. You know, I hadn't heard about that. It is really good. I'm going to put it on everything. Like, no, it's perfect. We're going to do chalkification, right? We're going to have chalkification summit. It's going to be great. And I say, wait, now hold up, because it might not be good on everything. No, of course it's good on everything. I mean, like, if you take chocolate and then you put it on ice cream, right, it's better, right? I'm like, oh, okay, I admit that it's better. I'm glad to hear you say that because I happen to own the world's largest cottage cheese company. And I'm going to chalkify my product and up sales by 3 times, right? And my answer is, no, that might not work. And the weird part, though, is to think about why doesn't that work? When you think about it objectively, like, why wouldn't it work? I like both those things, your dairy product. Why wouldn't this work? But there are subtleties in the way that a product like that interacts with the human body that, like, just something's wrong. And it's hard for us to talk about, but it's true, and it's right there. And it's the same thing with a lot of the things we're talking about. In the last 3 years, a whole lot of things have shown up. Lots of different companies trying all these different experiments to figure out the right answers. And some of them are really nailing it, and a lot of them aren't, because that's what happens when you experiment. Everybody's trying different things. So in order to sift through all this and figure out what's right for me, you have to think a bit. And one of the things we know, game design just in general is hard. Like, most games fail. Not because the game designers aren't good game designers. I mean, it's just that making games is really hard because we don't understand motivation perfectly. What everybody wants, right, is this is what they want. Take everyday things into the dreamiest perks and rewards, right? I'm just going to put rewards on things that you might not like so much and make you like them more. And that doesn't always work. There's a lot of things about rewards that people don't understand, things that are counterintuitive. There's a really good book, Punished by Rewards, by Alfie Kohn, where he does an overview of the last 30 years of the psychological research about rewards. And all of it lines up to kind of paint some pretty scary pictures in some cases, that in many cases, rewards do the opposite of what you want. And you have to be very careful. So like a frequently repeated experiment that always comes up the same is you get two groups of children. And you're going to say, kids, you're going to draw pictures. And you give them crayons, and they can draw pictures. And the first group, you say, good luck drawing those pictures, kids. And the second group, you say, I'm going to give you $1 every time you draw a picture. So now, how does this change what happens? It changes it because the kids who are paid the $1 for each picture, of course they draw more pictures, right? And of course the pictures are of lower quality. So if you want high quantities of low quality work, turns out the reward system there is a good way to do it. And that's a little, like, that's okay, I kind of get that, and I sort of see that. But that's not really what the experiment's about. What the experiment's about is what happens at the end. At the end of the 20 minutes when the kid's been drawing, someone comes in and says, okay, kids, we're done. I'll be back in just a minute. And then the researcher leaves the room and leaves them alone for 15 minutes. The kids who weren't paid any money, well, they're like, whatever, and they just keep drawing pictures. The kids who were paid $1 per picture, they stop and sit and wait. Because the reward sends the message that this activity is not worth doing if you don't get the reward. So the thing to think about is if you're considering using rewards as training wheels to get somebody used to doing something, and then I'm going to take away the training wheels and now everything's going to be better, you may find that you're actually worse off than when you began, which is definitely a counterintuitive notion. So what are we going to do? Well, here's what Jack Black advises.
That poster charts everyone's performance.
Get the audio up, please.
We get gold stars when we master the material covered in class. How do we get gold stars if we just have recess?
What are these black dots here?
Demerits.
What kind of a sick school is this? Hmm? As long as I'm here, there will be no grades or gold stars or demerits.
Well, that's a pretty extreme way to go. Are there sensible ways to use some of these things? You know, if we can't have the merit badges to solve all our problems, what are we going to do? So, it was mentioned earlier, Scott Rigby and Richard Ryan, they have a book called Glued to Games, which some of you may find interesting. They use the notions of self-determination theory to help us understand why is it that people like games so well. Most people assume it's because games are fun. That's it. We just need to get the fun in there. And their research shows that no, fun is part of it, but it's not all of it. We've all seen people playing games who were definitely not having fun. They're just, it's stupid, and it's not, no one would call it fun. And it's not fun, but it's motivating and people want to do it. So what's that about? Well, self-determination theory, despite its terrible title, is very simple. The idea is that we have basic human needs. There are physical needs, we know about that, but there are also mental needs. And they suggest there are precisely 3 mental needs. The first one being competence. You want to feel good at what you do. The second one being autonomy. You want freedom to do what you want to do. And then the third one being relatedness. You want to connect to other people. And that's it. These are the 3 things that give you, if you don't have these things in your life, you're going to be mentally unhealthy. And what do you know? Games are really good at giving all 3 of these things. Now, I have a lot of people come to me and say, I could make games. I mean, we make software. Games are just software. We can do that. And I say, well, I want you to think for a minute. I want you to think about this. So say I'm going to make a new company, Big Red Button Software. All right, we've got a new product, tax preparation software. We send you a big red button in the mail. You push it, and instantly your taxes are done perfectly. And you get the best refund you could possibly get, plus 10%. Does that sound good? Would you invest in this product? Yes? All right. I'm glad because we have another product we're coming out with. It's called Angry Birds. Okay? works in a very similar way. We send you a big red button, you push it, you won. Good job. Best game ever, right? No, worst game ever is horrible. You want your 99 cents back for that game. So what's going on here? The difference is that I don't do my taxes because I want to. I do my taxes because I have to. But playing games is a wanna activity. And this is very important, this notions of wanna activities and have to activities. And I have a friend who loves doing taxes. He gets excited when new tax codes come out, right? He hates playing video games. If I make him play a video game, he hates it. But for him, these are flipped. It has nothing to do with the activity. It has everything to do with the individual. So let's look at wanna and have to a little more, because they're really important. Work tends to be a have to thing. Play tends to be a wanna thing. Slavery, definitely on the have to side. Freedom, one of the hallmarks of self-determination theory, is on the wanna side. Efficiency is on the have to side. That's an important one to think about for a minute. Nobody says, hey, remember that 2-week vacation I was going to take in the Caribbean? I did my homework. I figured out I can get it down to just 6 days, right? That sounds insane, right? Because we optimize pleasurable experiences for pleasure. Wanna activities get optimized for pleasure, not for efficiency. And this is a big shift in the world of design. The whole world of design is shifting this way. This was a huge insight for me to read a bunch of neuroscience literature and realize that we have separate pathways in the brain for avoiding negative consequences and seeking positive consequences. Most people lump it all together and call it motivation. But structurally in the brain, they're different, and you can feel it. You can feel that shift, right? When you start playing Farmville and it's all juicy and fun and it's because you want to, and then gradually it shifts into that part where you're like, oh man, I have to get back there, or my strawberries are going to die, and it's going to be embarrassing. You went from seeking positive consequences to avoiding negative consequences, which is why those types of social games, as one of my designers, Sherry Ray, says, people don't just stop playing them, they divorce them, right? Because of that shift gradually happening. So there are so many things now that are all about pleasure. We choose our foods for pleasure. We choose our jobs based on whether they're pleasurable. There's all this talk of, can school be more pleasurable? When you see a car commercial, it's not about, this car's really efficient and it really saves you money. It's about what this feels like to drive. You know, it's all about pleasure. Almost everything in society now is shifting that way in terms of design. Don't worry, it's just a slide. Okay, so engineers at Microsoft spent probably, 18 months. It was probably 20 guys, 18 months designing this screen, trying to figure out what's the optimal way to communicate this information. And that's what they decided would be best, right? That's a 20th century thing. In the 21st century, this is what happens when all the Twitter servers fail at once, right? Even error messages become pleasurable. You'd think all this pleasure stuff, this is just psychology. We just go to psychologists. They'll know all about it. And you get a little bit out of them, but mostly it doesn't work. And you know why? And you know how I can tell? I've been to their parties. It stands to reason that the psychologists, knowing the most about the human mind, should have the greatest parties on the planet Earth. But they don't. Their parties suck. And so this tells you one of two things. Either they don't understand pleasure or they don't care about it. Either way, they're going to have a hard time helping us with things. Now, the truth is the psychologists are very focused on preventing suffering and predicting human behavior. And those are both very important, but neither of them are about creating pleasure in people. So a lot of people have been turning to game designers. Will Wright was talking about how a lot of people are coming to him. I've had a ton of people coming to me trying to understand these things. And why? Because game designers, we create things that are interactive and are designed only for pleasure. They have no other purpose than being pleasurable. And games give a lot of things that cause pleasure. Feedback and a chance to exercise curiosity, lots of things. Lots of different types of pleasures come out of games. When people talk about gamifying things, they don't really want to make it like a game. They want to take the pleasurable aspects that are native to games and move them into their own applications. And the thing about pleasure, it's very complex. And I'm going to let George Clooney explain it because he makes everything better.
Okay. You got to fill me in on the miles thing. What is that about?
I don't spend a nickel if I can help it, unless it somehow profits my mileage account.
So what are you saving up for? Hawaii? South of France?
It's not like that. The miles are the goal.
That's it? You're saving just to save?
Let's just say that I have a number in mind and I haven't hit it yet.
That's a little abstract. What's the target?
I'd rather not.
Is it a secret target?
It's 10 million miles.
Okay. Isn't 10 million just a number?
Pi's just a number.
Well, we all need a hobby. No, I don't mean to belittle your collection. I get it. It sounds cool.
I'd be the 7th person to do it. More people have walked on the moon.
Did they throw you a parade?
You get lifetime executive status. You get to meet the chief pilot, Maynard Finch.
Wow.
And they put your name on the side of a plane.
Men get such hard-ons from putting their name on stuff. You guys don't grow up. It's like you need to pee on everything.
So there's a lot actually going on in that little scene. A lot is captured. And it's interesting to think about the psychology of airline miles, because people say, look, that's been working for 30 years. We'll just do that on our product. But when you think about the psychology of airline miles, it's mostly about business travelers. Business travelers are mostly about status. When you go to business travel, it's like, I gotta make the deal, I gotta give the talk, whatever. You're very status oriented. And how convenient that just then someone shows up and says, guess what, you're now platinum level. You're a high status. You get to go on the plane before everyone else, and everyone gets to watch you go on. And we'll sit you in the front. Did you know first class used to be in the back, and they realized we should put it in the front. So they put it in the front, so then everyone gets to see you again as they walk by, and they see how very important you are. And that's why they're so quick to get those drinks to first class, because they want to see you there. How did they get that drink so fast? Okay, but that doesn't mean this works with everything. If I take this same system and give it to Toys R Us, congratulations, you're a platinum level toy buyer. You're going to be like, oh my God, I think I have a problem. Why am I spending so much money? This is insane, right? The context is different, and that's why we've seen the success of these gas points, because gas points are completely the opposite of the frequent flyer points. They're about saving a few pennies here and there. You can't tell a business traveler, guess what, you're going to save a few pennies. I'd be insulted. But you don't want platinum level shopper at the grocery store. It would seem ridiculous. But you're penny pinching when you're at the store because you know the peanut butter company, it keeps changing the size of the package to screw you out of a few cents. And you're thinking pennies, 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 and then someone says, how about saving 10 cents on gas? And you're like, yes, yes, I want that. And another great example is contextual stuff is Steenberg and Ahern this was recently in Harvard Business Review, talking about motivating salespeople and talking about how you need different systems of motivation for the different types of salespeople. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and that by breaking it down into categories, you're going to find the right things. Just what Andrea was talking about, you've got to figure out what motivates the individuals. And when it comes to pleasure, it's not simple. It's not one thing. We have the thing about the human experience is there are so many kinds of pleasure. There's so many different types. And you don't have to focus on just one. You should look at the whole vast array of human pleasures and figure out which ones can I bring to bear with my particular experience. Which ones are going to resonate best with what I'm trying to create. So I'm also not a big fan of the word gamification. I think it's a naive term. I think it's us groping towards something, and you could say pleasurize, but that just sounds gross. So I like, as was mentioned before, the notion of calling it motivational design, improved motivational design. Sebastian Dieterding was the first one I ever heard talking about that, because that's really what we mean. That's really what we're talking about here. So Gabe, I put it to you. I'm hoping that next year we'll call it the Motivational Design Summit, but that's just one person's opinion. So 5 quick keys to motivational design, and I'll get out of here. There, I pleasurized them a little bit. Anyway, so key number 1, you want to make things appealing. Appeal is different than engagement. Appeal means you look at it and you're like, I want to do this. The second one is you have to make it engaging. Make it so that people want to keep doing it. They enjoy it while they're doing it. Making things effortless is really important. Imagine if you had to fill out the frequent flyer form every time you went for a plane. You'd say, to hell with this. But you do it once, and then you never have to do anything again. and it weaves right into your life. I talk to so many people who say, I'm putting this new system in, and it makes people do an extra step, and it's often death for the whole thing. You want to make things uncheatable. If your system is cheatable, it spoils the whole thing because people, even if they don't cheat, they know cheating is possible, and it makes their efforts feel wasted. Great example, if you go to Sears, they have this whole thing set up about when you go to pick up a washing machine. It's the same system they've had for 30 years. They got to go around the back and pick up your vacuum cleaner, whatever the heck it is. They knew that people were frustrated because they had to wait so long, so they put in a thing, percentage of customers serviced within 5 minutes. Look, yesterday 100%, last month 99.4%. Well, I find it's mostly bullshit, right? When I go to pick up a vacuum cleaner, some guy comes out real quick. He's like, hey, yeah, you're next. We'll get you soon. And he hits a button, and then he's good, and then I see him in 20 minutes, right? And so they're basically cheating the system so that they look good to corporate, but it's not really doing what it's supposed to do. And then the last one here, make it not embarrassing. You heard George Clooney kind of embarrassed talking about his 10 million miles. He kind of feels weird to be playing a game and talking about it. We're embarrassed about gameplay and playing games in public. You need to find ways that if it is very playful, that people can keep it private. And if it needs to be more public, you need to find ways that people won't be embarrassed because they embarrass so easily. Anyway, so that's what I have to say. Pleasure is complex and counterintuitive. It's embarrassing. We don't fully understand it. It's a dark new continent that we're still figuring out. It's a motivation for everything that we do. And it's the key to design for the 21st century. You can make your experiences better. You just have to ask yourself these simple questions. Given what I know about my guests, why will they like this experience? And how can I get them to like it more? If you do those things, you're in pretty good shape. Thanks very much.
Thank you.